Melissa and I had been inseparable since we were 16. The kind of love that neighbors and teachers nodded at, saying, "They're going to make it." I believed them. We dreamed of a future stitched together with humble beginnings and big ambitions. It was my idea to open the bakery. I still remember sitting at that greasy diner, scribbling numbers on a napkin while Melissa sipped her coffee. "I believe in you," she said, her eyes bright. That was all I needed. I poured everything I had into it, literally emptied my savings account. Melissa quit her receptionist job to work the counter. I did the baking, the paperwork, the marketing. For a while, life was good. Our little bakery, Sweet Hearth, grew faster than we imagined. Morning lines out the door. Birthday cake orders months in advance. Even local food bloggers praised us. It wasn't just a business. It was ours. But somewhere along the way, our dreams turned into her demands. The cracks beneath the frosting. Melissa changed first. At least, that's what I tell myself. It started small. She bought designer shoes instead of reinvesting profits. She began traveling with friends to far-off resorts while I stayed back to manage the bakery. When I questioned the spending, she smiled sweetly and said, "You work too hard, babe. Relax a little." But I couldn't relax. Bills didn't relax. Payroll didn't relax. And behind that sweet smile, something colder was blooming. Nights became silent. Weekends turned into arguments. I started noticing things I had ignored before. How she barely touched the register anymore, preferring to manage from home while posting selfies at rooftop bars. The final blow came when I found text messages between her and a real estate agent. Not just any real estate agent. She was secretly house hunting without telling me. Alone. When I confronted her, she didn't even deny it. She said flatly, "I need my own space." That night, she moved out. Within a week, divorce papers were delivered to the bakery. Paper cuts. I won't pretend I was blameless. Maybe I loved the bakery more than I loved her by the end. Maybe I ignored the signs because admitting the truth hurt more than fighting it. But seeing her sitting across from me in that sterile mediation room, treating our years together like a business transaction, that was a pain I wasn't ready for. She came prepared with a team of lawyers who spoke in clipped, mechanical tones. Asset division. Alimony. They even had the nerve to suggest that I owed her a share of future bakery profits. I sat there, staring at Melissa. This wasn't the woman I built a life with. This was someone else entirely. Still, I had one thing they didn't know about. The operating agreement. My quiet insurance policy. Buried deep where no one thought to look. The hidden clause. When I first drafted it, years ago, the clause was just a precaution, suggested by a shrewd lawyer who specialized in family businesses. At the time, Melissa laughed when I insisted on formal paperwork. "You're so dramatic," she had teased. "We're never getting divorced." I almost agreed with her, but I signed it anyway. She signed without reading, trusting me completely. Now, that trust, or carelessness, was about to cost her. When the bakery came up during negotiations, Melissa's lawyer leaned forward confidently. "Our client is entitled to a 50% share of the business valuation," he declared. I pulled out the original agreement. Highlighted section. Clear language. Undeniable. The moment he finished reading it, his jaw tensed. He leaned toward Melissa and whispered urgently. I watched her face shift, smugness fading into confusion, then disbelief, then fury. She tried to argue, accused me of trickery, even threatened to sue. But the document was airtight. She had no claim. Not a single crumb of the bakery was hers. Fallout Melissa lost it, right there, in front of everyone. She called me a liar, a cheat, even a fraud. The mediator had to call a recess just to calm her down. When we returned, her demands were suddenly a lot smaller. Half the house value, a portion of my retirement, minimal alimony. The bakery, our pride, our sweat, our supposed dream, was mine alone now, and I couldn't even feel happy about it. I signed the papers without fanfare. The moment the pen left the page, it felt like burying a body. Not a victory, a funeral. Aftermath. For months after, life was hollow. Sweet Hearth became a ghost town in my mind. I worked mechanically, kneading dough, frosting cakes, smiling at customers, while inside, I felt nothing. At night, the empty apartment gnawed at me. No laughter, no footsteps, just silence. I checked Melissa's social media sometimes. She was living it up. New friends, new parties, new men. At first, it burned. But then, I realized something. She wasn't happy. She was escaping. Just like she had escaped our marriage. Just like she had escaped her responsibilities at the bakery. And suddenly, a strange peace settled over me. I hadn't lost anything that was truly mine. I had only lost an illusion. Healing in layers. It wasn't instant. Healing never is. Some mornings, I still woke up reaching for a ghost. Some nights, I wondered if I had been too cold, too strategic. Was protecting the bakery worth the emotional wreckage? Had I lost part of my soul in the process? But over time, I started seeing glimpses of myself again. Small things. Smiling at a regular customer without forcing it. Taking a Saturday off to hike in the hills. Laughing at a stupid sitcom until my stomach hurt. Life rebuilt itself, layer by layer, like a cake rising patiently in the oven. The letter, about a year after the divorce, Melissa sent me a letter. Not a text, not an email. A real, handwritten letter. In it, she apologized. Not for leaving, not for taking everything she could, but for letting the greed and resentment consume her. She admitted she was lost, even during our marriage. That my passion for the bakery had made her feel small. That she had chased material things, hoping they would fill a hole inside her. And that when she realized it hadn't worked, it was too late to fix anything. She didn't ask for forgiveness. She didn't ask for a second chance. She just told the truth. Reading it, I felt a strange gratitude. Not because it changed anything, but because it closed a door that had been hanging half open in my heart. Sweet Hearth is still standing. It's different now, more focused, less frantic. I hired new staff, expanded the menu, started mentoring young bakers who reminded me of myself at 25, filled with reckless dreams. And as for love, I'm not in a rush. Real love isn't something you build overnight. It's like baking, requires patience, attention, and a willingness to get burned sometimes. I'm willing to risk it again someday. But this time, I'll do it with open eyes. And with a heart strong enough to survive whatever storms may come. Because if this journey taught me anything, it's this. Protect your dreams, but protect your heart even more. A spark in the crowd. It happened on an ordinary Saturday. The bakery was buzzing. Local farmers' market day always drew a big crowd. Kids with sticky fingers, couples holding hands, tourists snapping photos of our famous triple-layer strawberry cake. I was wiping down the front counter when I noticed her. She wasn't like most customers. No frantic snapping of pictures, no rehearsed poses for Instagram. She stood quietly by the glass case, reading every label carefully, thoughtfully. Curious, I walked over. "First time here?" I asked. She smiled, warm, genuine. "My niece raves about your almond croissants. I had to see what all the fuss was about." Her name was Emily. She worked as a children's book illustrator, lived just a few blocks away, soft-spoken but witty, the kind of person who listens more than she talks. We ended up chatting for 20 minutes. When she left, croissant in hand, I realized I was smiling. A real smile this time. Fire and ashes. 2 weeks later, disaster struck. I got a call at 3:17 a.m. A fire. Someone had left an electrical appliance plugged in overnight. By the time I got there, the bakery was engulfed in smoke and sirens. My heart shattered watching firefighters tear through the place I had built with my own hands. The next morning, when the smoke cleared, it looked like a war zone. Soot-covered walls, broken glass, burnt tables, memories reduced to ashes. Insurance would cover part of it. But the bakery was closed indefinitely. Staff had to be let go temporarily. Bills piled up fast. For the first time in years, I felt truly alone again. Number hopeless. Maybe Melissa was right, I thought. Maybe dreams really weren't enough. Kindness comes quietly. Emily showed up that afternoon, not with pity, not with empty words. She brought a thermos of hot coffee, a sketch pad, and 2 folding chairs. We sat outside the blackened building in silence for a while. Then she opened her sketchbook and said, "Tell me about the first cake you ever baked here." Something about the way she said it, like the bakery still existed, somewhere beyond the charred walls, unlocked something in me. I told her about the early days, the mistakes, the victories, the laughter. She sketched as I spoke. Rough, beautiful drawings of ovens, loaves of bread, hands kneading dough. By the time the sun set, I realized the bakery wasn't just the walls. It was the memories, the effort, the dream. Dreams can be rebuilt. Walls can be rebuilt. Maybe even hearts can be, too. Brick by brick. Rebuilding wasn't glamorous. It was sweaty, grueling work. Meeting contractors, fighting with insurance agents, applying for emergency small business loans. Every time I felt like giving up, Emily was there, dropping off coffee, sending encouraging texts, even doodling future bakery plans with silly names like Sweet Hearth 2.0 on napkins. Slowly, the bakery came back to life. Fresh paint, new ovens, better lighting, wider counters. But I rebuilt differently this time, smarter. Instead of expanding recklessly like before, I focused on what mattered: quality, community, passion. And somewhere in the middle of drywall dust and paint fumes, Emily and I grew closer. It wasn't dramatic. No Hollywood moments, just simple, steady companionship. Trust, built one small kindness at a time. A grand reopening. 9 months after the fire, Sweet Hearth reopened. The whole neighborhood showed up. There were banners, balloons, even a local reporter asking for interviews. As I stood behind the counter, looking out at the crowd, I felt something different from when we first opened all those years ago. Back then, it was about success, recognition, proving something. Now it was about gratitude, about survival, about love. I spotted Emily near the window, laughing with a group of kids over a tray of fresh-baked cookies. Our eyes met, and she raised her coffee cup in a little toast. I smiled back, feeling a warmth no oven could create. Full circle one evening, months later, after a long day of baking, Emily and I sat on the rooftop of her apartment, watching the sunset bleed across the sky. "You ever regret it?" she asked softly. "Regret what?" "All of it. The marriage, the bakery, staying." I thought about it. The pain, the betrayal, the lonely nights, the fire, the rebuild. And then I thought about the laughter, the friendships, the lessons, the second chances. I thought about Emily. "No," I said. "I don't regret it. Even the worst parts shaped the best parts." She smiled. The city lights flickered on below us. I leaned back, feeling, for the first time in a long time, like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. Final reflection. Sometimes life burns you to the ground, not to destroy you, but to give you a chance to rebuild stronger. Melissa took everything she thought she could, but she couldn't take my spirit. She couldn't take my dreams. And thanks to one hidden clause and a little bit of stubborn hope, I found something better than what I lost. I found myself again. And that was something no one could ever take away.